In the eyes of the world, Rihanna is a music and fashion icon, the darling of her fans and a star whose success has made her a household name. However, she is a human being like everyone else. She likes to live in her ordinary moments without showing off. Although people think she lives the perfect life, even for her, life is sometimes full of meaning hidden in small details. One such morning, Rihanna's life took an unexpected turn. It was early in the morning. Her mansion was bathed in sunlight and the flowers in her large garden swayed gently in the breeze. Rihanna enjoyed a day away from her busy schedule. As she sipped her coffee, her eyes caught Maria working in a corner of the kitchen. Maria was a quiet woman who had worked at home for years, always taking great care in her work. Rihanna had always valued her and considered her part of the household. But that morning, there was an unusual sadness on Maria's face. Maria's hands were shaking and her eyes were wandering. When Rihanna noticed this, she got up from her seat and approached her. "Maria, is everything okay? I saw you were a little upset today," she said, her voice full of both curiosity and concern. Maria looked away from Rihanna as if she wanted to say something but didn't dare. "Oh ma'am, I don't mean to disturb you," Maria said in a quiet voice. But Rihanna immediately realized that there was more behind those words. "Maria, you can talk to me about whatever you want. You won't bother me," she tried to encourage her. Maria hesitated for a while, as if a storm was brewing inside her, but she didn't want to let it out. Finally she took a deep breath and began to speak softly. "Madam, I have something to tell you. But it is very hard for me to say." Rihanna began to think about what those words could mean. What could have caused Maria to be so upset? Listening to her, she felt that this was a much deeper issue than she had thought. "Maria, you can say whatever you want. There is no one here to judge you," he said, trying to make her feel comfortable. But Maria continued to look away from Rihanna. A tear fell from her eye and a silence that penetrated Rihanna's heart echoed in the room. Maria's condition aroused great curiosity and fear in Rihanna. What was going on in the life of this woman they had worked with for years? Why was she so withdrawn? Without a moment's hesitation, Rihanna touched Maria's shoulder and assured her of her support. "Madam," Maria said in a trembling voice, "it has been a great honor for me to work in this house. But now I must tell you a truth that I have been hiding for years." These words caused a storm within Rihanna. What did she mean? What could this secret be that Maria was hiding? Rihanna took a deep breath and calmly said, "Go ahead, Maria, I'll listen to whatever you have to say." But what Maria was about to tell Rihanna would create an unexpected emotional storm in the life of the famous star. It would reveal not only a secret, but also a heavy burden that Maria had been carrying for years. The deep concern on Maria's face forced Rihanna to concentrate. It was hard to believe that this woman they had worked with for years had a secret. But the fact that Maria was so sensitive and upset made it clear that this was no ordinary situation. Rihanna did her best to listen carefully to what she was saying. Maria took a deep breath, wiped away her tears and began to speak. "Madam, my life was very different before I started working in this house. My greatest dream as a mother was for my son to have a good life. But sometimes our dreams are crushed under the heavy burden of reality." Rihanna became more attentive as Maria's voice quivered. Maria's story was more than that of an ordinary worker, it was a story of humanity. "My son Daniel. I gave him everything in my life, but things took a turn for the worse. I got into a lot of debt, and eventually I had to leave Daniel and come here. The job here was my salvation. But I can't do anything but send him money every month. I haven't seen him for years." Maria clasped her hands as she said these words. Rihanna's eyes saw the immense pain and regret that this seemingly ordinary woman carried within her. Those words took Rihanna back to her past. She too remembered the times when she was away from her own family. Maybe she hadn't suffered financially, but she had paid for her success with loneliness. So she could understand Maria's pain to some extent. "Maria, why can't you see your son?" Rihanna asked, wanting to get to the bottom of it. Maria bowed her head and answered, choosing her words carefully. "Ma'am, I came here to escape the debt, but contact with Daniel could hurt him even more. I must stay away to protect him. I don't want him to see me as weak, but every night I wonder if he will ever forgive me." These words touched Rihanna's heart. Mary's suffering was one of the greatest sacrifices a mother can make. Keeping herself away from her child to protect him. After hearing this story, Rihanna knew she had to do something to help. However, she was not sure how to find a solution. Maria continued. "Daniel is 20 years old now. The last time I saw him, I was just a kid. I have no idea how he is now, what he is doing. But what I do know is that my love for him hasn't changed." Maria took a deep breath at these words, but the tears now flowed unstoppably. Rihanna was moved by Maria's story. But it could not remain just a story. She had known this woman for years, she had seen how selfless and hard-working she was. That sacrifice had to be rewarded. Rihanna's conscience and sense of justice moved her to find a solution to Maria's story. "Maria, can you tell me where your son is now?" Rihanna asked with a glimmer of hope. Maria nodded thoughtfully. "He sent me a letter a few years ago. It said that he had started university there. But I don't know what city he was in, and I never heard from him again." Rihanna was determined to find a way to help Maria. But it would take more than a donation. It would take rebuilding the bond between mother and son. A plan began to take shape in Rihanna's mind. Maria had been making a huge sacrifice for years without even realizing it. But perhaps this story could have a happy ending. Rihanna gently took Maria's hand and said in a reassuring tone, "Maria, there is a solution. I will do everything in my power to reunite you with your son." These words surprised Maria and gave her hope. The burden she had been carrying for years might be coming to an end. However, it was not yet clear how Rihanna would take a step in this direction. This situation, which until that day seemed impossible to solve, would perhaps change completely with Rihanna's touch. The hope in Maria's eyes changed the mood of the room. For Rihanna, this was a mission. Mary's sacrifice had to be rewarded and she had to be reunited with her son. But there were many more surprises to come on this journey. As promised, Rihanna acted immediately. First, she began analyzing the letter Maria received years ago. She shared the details of the letter with a team of professionals and began tracking down Daniel. Thanks to Rihanna's powerful connections, it didn't take long. Within a short period of time, it was determined where Daniel was studying at university and where he currently lived. Rihanna wanted to surprise Maria without telling her about the whole process. While Maria went about her daily business, unaware of what was happening, Rihanna organized a big meeting. When Daniel learned the truth about his mother through a video call, he could not hold back his tears. Knowing that his mother had left him only to give him a better life changed the young man's entire perspective. When the day of the meeting arrived, Maria was still clueless. Rihanna took her to a large mansion, saying she had invited her to a special event. When Maria entered the great hall, surprised and a little nervous, she found her son, whom she hadn't seen in years. Maria froze in her tracks as Daniel ran up to his mother in tears. "Mom!" Daniel shouted. It was a melody Maria had waited years to hear. As she was thrown into her son's arms, the longing and regret that had been building up for years was washed away in her tears. Everyone in the room watched this touching moment in silence. Rihanna could not hold back her tears as she watched from a corner. In life, sometimes material wealth cannot solve everything, but the right touch can change two people's lives completely. Rihanna's gesture to Maria and Daniel proved once again that she is not only a great artist, but also a person with a big heart. After the meeting, Daniel and Maria promised to keep in touch. Instead of blaming his mother, Daniel now understood her sacrifices. Maria, on the other hand, was free of the guilt she had carried for years and would move on with her life with renewed hope. This happy ending not only marked the reunion of a mother and son, but also showed that love and sacrifice can overcome all obstacles. For Rihanna, this experience became one of the most meaningful projects of her life. She realized once again the importance of using her power to make things happen in her world to touch the lives of others. At the end of the story, Rihanna returned home with peace of mind, while Maria and Daniel made a fresh start with the peace of being reunited. It was a lesson that would warm not only two lives, but the hearts of everyone who heard this story. Love was a powerful emotion that could overcome obstacles that sometimes seemed impossible. And so this story reminds us once again. It is not big gestures or big money that change the world, but a small but meaningful act of kindness at the right time.